So they do a really good job of, I think, three things in particular. Number one, it's very clear what the event is. Spectators are able to get like right there, not like kind of there, but right there. They keep the energy and the hype going with really good, solid music, and they make you feel like a badass. And the third thing is, I think they've created an event. It's right on the cusp. Like it's super hard, but it's like, okay, I could do that.
I'm still buzzing, man. It was so fun. Oh man, I get it. It's funny because I was talking to a couple of my buddies. I was like texting them. None of them have done a Hyrox race. This is like my old group text friends from like back in the CrossFit days. Like we used to compete, train for the open, all that good stuff. And it's funny because one of my friends especially was like he's like, I don't get it. Like, am I missing something? Like everyone that does one seems to be like really into it. And he's like, it gives off like, what was the example he used? Not Spartan race, but he was like, it gives me like mud race like vibes, which like, if you remember, I feel like back when you were competing in CrossFit, like CrossFitters always like, you look down on the people that did obstacle racing. You were like, that's like the soft version of we do. I don't know if you remember that, but that was definitely at least the aura that I felt of like, if you were at a CrossFit gym and you were like really into like doing the CrossFit competitions or training for the open or maybe like trying to get on a regionals team. And then there were other people that like, did Spartan races and stuff like that. It was kind of like, I would never do that, which like is so dumb. But I'm just saying that that's kind of the way it was. Like those were always seen, like obstacle racing always seemed like a lesser, softer, whatever. And now I think that, and a lot of this I think is the perception people have of this stuff. Obviously, like if you're going out and competing and putting yourself out there, it doesn't matter what you're choosing to do. It's admirable that you're signing up for something, going out, training for it, and giving your best effort. Like that's what matters. But I think Hyrox has made it cool. Like they've given it this very, and they've done so many like little
just
things.
Little things, man. Little things.
I got an email. So they email you right after the race on Sunday to buy race pictures. And dude, I mean, this is probably more common. This is probably more common than, well, first what they do is when you register, you can pre-purchase the pictures for a discounted rate. So you're already paying for that.
Tactical Games did something similar to that too, which was helpful because you can't like be running around with the camera there,
Right.
It's much harder.
But the cool thing, because I mean, I remember, especially from, having an endurance background, like you're always like looking for the race picture. And I remember back in the day, spending like hours sifting through race pictures, trying to find yourself. Dude, now I took a selfie with my phone and then it pulled the 62 pictures that I was in.
No, how much was that?
And then you pay, it was $39 for all the pictures.
What?
And this is because they make it convenient for you to find your pictures. I took a selfie. It asked me to take a selfie. It was like dark. It was in the morning too. It wasn't even like the best selfie. I was like, I don't know how well this is going to work. And dude, it was so good that it even pulled up the pictures of other competitors when I was in the background. Like when we were, when we were just watching the races and like over the railing, like watching people do stuff.
Sure.
It pulled those pictures too.
No.
So you're even in the background and dude, it was really impressive. Really, really impressive.
We should do that with, I should do that too.
They take good pictures. They make you look fucking cool. Whatever they do with like the lighting or whatever, like you look fucking jacked. And you're like, I want to buy those.
Well, let's take a step back for a second. So the way Hyrox works is, and I found out about this on the podcast. So basically Gabe signed up for one, and which we'll talk about him signing up for another one soon. But Gabe signed up for one, kind of convinced me very it didn't have to convince me too hard.
It didn't take much convincing.
It didn't take much convincing, right? Because I'm the guy who always prides himself on being down. Like if someone wants to go do something hard, like call me, I'll do it with you. And you can't just talk like that. You got to be able to back it up. And so when Gabe wanted to do it, it's like, dude, let's do it. So we show up in Dallas and you're at like this, a major arena. And everything is within one location. And the way they do this is that you start off with a run, and the run is like 2 to 3 laps, right? And it's 1,000 meters. Then you do a station, and the first station is a ski erg. Then you run again 2-3 laps, and then you have your next station, which is a sled pull. Then you run again, then sled push, or vice versa. Then you run again, and then you go through a series of like obstacles, for lack of a better term. And then the run station is always consistent, and you finish at the very end by going through like this tunnel and then you do your wall balls, and then you run up on a stage like you won the national championship. Like that's the way they set it up. So they do a really good job of, I think, three things in particular. Number one, it's very clear what the event is. Anybody watching is easily able to identify who, like, what the process is, right? And they can know how long it's taking you to get through that process. So like your family was there and it was easy for them to keep up with it.
Super easy.
While in addition, spectators are able to get like right there, not like kind of there, but right there. Whereas in CrossFit and other stuff where you have barbells flying around and things like that, there isn't really that at this event. So they make stations for visitors, like literally like your dad was like right in front of me when I was rowing. Like I was able to high five him. Like multiple times this happened. It wasn't like uncommon. And so I think that they make it super spectator friendly to easily understand what's happening, and they give you access. The second thing I think they do really well is that they keep the energy and the hype going with really good solid music, and they make you feel like a badass by the way they like do the lighting and the staging, right? That's like, and the third thing is I think they've created an event that is like right on the cusp of like someone's like, okay, I'll do that factor. Meaning like it's right on the cusp. Like it's super hard, but it's like, okay, I could do that. Like I could, you know what I'm saying? Those are the things I think they're doing really well. Is like they're making it difficult, but difficult enough where it's exciting for the people that want to get a good time, but not so difficult that you can't do it, right? So that was kind of like my major takeaways. And the way that they like structured the way you get into the race, the way that like it was right on time, the way that dude, all the things were just like clockwork, man. And it makes you wonder if CrossFit had just refined down what the events were, if they would have been as much clockwork, because they wouldn't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, we can go down so many different avenues of like, like from a business perspective, from an event running perspective, spectator perspective, but they're just doing a lot of things right, man. And it shows from the growth. And now we can speak to it from, you know, a firsthand experience of like, as an athlete, things I care about, it running on time, like not being like a pain in the ass. And also I was talking to my buddies about this last night. Like one thing that I appreciated too is I have zero interest now really in signing up for or doing something that like is going to potentially injure me or like really bang me up, or, you know, like that stuff just isn't worth it for me anymore. And
Right.
I think a big piece of it too, and granted, we did the pro doubles version, so we're splitting up the work. But even if you were to do it singles, given the movement, given that it's pushing a sled, pulling a sled, skier, like, yes, lunges might leave you a little sore. Like it's honestly an event that's like built in a way where you're not going to get super beat up. I think the likelihood of you like getting injured is not super high. You know, not that it's super high if you were to do like the average CrossFit competition, but there's something to be said about barbells and getting upside down in handstand push-ups and, you know, getting up on a rig and doing, you know, like potentially like all of that stuff. They've just kind of like done away with it. And I think that for a long time, you know, especially coming up in the CrossFit space, you almost thought that those things were necessary to have something that was challenging, to have something that was fun. And like, dude, it's not. Like
It was challenging. It was fun.
I had a blast. I had a really good time, man. I was like thoroughly enjoying us doing the event for those reasons, because everything ran on time, because like, you know, I was definitely, dude, we were pushing hard, but like at no point was it just like to the point where it's like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I paying money to like literally like hurt myself? Like, sure, some people look at it and be like, why are you paying money to like go run laps around the
There
arena?
was one guy that held up a
fun,
sign.
dude.
Did you see that guy that held up a sign? I gave him a fist bump. It's like, you could have gone to therapy instead of doing this or something.
I've seen that at marathons. It's
I feel like
funny.
that was kind of like one of those like memes, like, but dude, we had a conversation with the COO, right? Who came from a CrossFit background. If I'm not mistaken, he actually owned an affiliate.
That's right.
That's right. And he was saying that what they were looking for out of the events was also simple judging factors, which I do think was interesting. The wall ball was the only thing that there was definitely a gray area in terms of like depth. But aside from that, like the judging was simple, and he even brought it up. Like we didn't want to put in things like box jumps because as people got tired, we don't want them to just be susceptible to that injury. It's just unnecessary as far as he was concerned. And some people in the hardcore CrossFit space would say that like they're missing out on areas of fitness. And I would agree with them. They're missing out on like heavy loading. They're missing out on a few factors. And that's fine, right? Like, but they're not claiming to do anything different. They're not testing for the fittest on earth. They're doing the Hyrox competition. You know what I mean? It's just different.
They're trying to put on a good experience, man. They're trying to, and the thing is, like, what I appreciate, because I told you this, the day after we raced, I went to like the Dallas Farmers Market. We were just hanging out with the family before we drove back. And obviously a lot of people there, you could tell, had been there for the race, and they were kind of doing the same thing. And I ended up talking to a bunch of people, like 3 or 4. But the commonality there was like, everyone was excited to do the next one. And I think that, like, when you look at it too, from like a fitness perspective, like, you know, people being consistent, training hard, everything that we're about, you know, on this podcast and with the brand, I think that Hyrox is also doing a really good service to that, because people constantly, like, because it's such a positive experience, want to put the next one on the calendar, which is like a great motivating factor to then continue to train. Like, you pay $160 for your next registration, you're going to make a trip out of it. Maybe you're bringing your family. Like, you're not going to not go to the gym leading up to it, or at least you're less likely to, versus like, oh, I just need to train because training is important. It's very easy to be like, well, things are getting busy, versus, hey, I got Hyrox coming up. Like, I should probably get to the gym, and, you know, so I don't, whatever, make a fool of myself, don't get hurt, whatever. All good motivating factors to just keep people consistently working on their fitness. And I think that, you know, that's what we want. And so that was cool to see.